Take a look at this painting entitled Scene at the Signing of the Constitution of the United States. What do you notice about the people? Who was eligible to vote when the Constitution was ratified? The U.S. Constitution left it to the states to determine who was eligible to vote. At the time of its signing, in many states, this meant that only white male landowners were eligible. And in some states, only Christian white male landowners could vote. The 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution protected the right to vote for male citizens aged 21 and older. The 15th Amendment stated that the right to vote shall not be denied to U.S. citizens based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Together, these amendments meant that all men, regardless of race, should be allowed to vote. However, some states limited the ability of minorities to vote by requiring them to pay poll taxes, pass literacy tests, and through threats of violence and intimidation. The 19th Amendment stated that the right to vote shall not be denied on account of sex. This meant that all women were guaranteed the right to vote. Despite the 14th, 15th, and 19th Amendments, people of color continued to face barriers to voting. The 24th Amendment prohibited the use of poll taxes to prevent people from voting. But legislation was needed to set up a process for enforcing all of these constitutional guarantees. The 1965 Voting Rights Act ensured that all U.S. citizens, regardless of race or ethnicity, could vote. Literacy tests and poll taxes limiting voting rights were prohibited. The LWV was founded by leaders of the women's suffrage movement in 1920. We are a nonpartisan, grassroots organization that believes voters play a critical role in democracy. When we say nonpartisan, this means that the League does not support any political party or candidate, but it does take policy positions on issues after in-depth research, analysis, and membership discussion to reach consensus. The League staffs events throughout the county to register voters, including at high schools, colleges, farmers markets, prisons, and other community venues. It is important that voters be informed and know where candidates stand on the issues before voting. The Montgomery County League publishes the Voter's Guide to inform voters on candidate positions and ballot issues. It also offers other programs to inform voters, such as candidate forums and the voter hotline. Voting is the foundation of our democracy. It allows us to show our preferences for how we want to be governed. Who we elect matters because these people will determine the laws by which we are governed, how our tax dollars are spent, and how problems in our society are solved.
We vote on the issues affecting our communities, like the economy and inflation, the environment, reproductive health care, education, gun reform, immigration, and civil rights. What about you?
The people elected to represent us pass legislation that affects our everyday lives. Here are 3 examples of bills previously introduced to the Montgomery County Council. Bill 24-15E ensures that workers who earn tips will not earn less than the county minimum wage. Bill 21-22E prohibits the possession of firearms near places of public assembly, such as schools. Both of these bills were enacted. Bill 7-21 would have increased mandatory training for school resource officers and permitted the assignment of SROs at the discretion of the school superintendent. This bill expired and was not enacted. The people you elect help write legislation like these bills and work to pass them through the Montgomery County Council. The Maryland State Board of Elections oversees elections throughout the state. County boards of election run our local elections. Montgomery County citizens who are registered and will be 16 by the next general election can apply to be an election judge. After completing training, judges are assigned to a polling place during early voting and on Election Day. To make sure elections are running smoothly, the Montgomery County Board of Elections hires and trains the League of Women Voters to monitor polling places. We visit polling places throughout the county and complete an extensive checklist indicating if polling places are accessible, are following procedures, and have appropriate signage. Monitors are the eyes and ears of the Board of Elections. You must be a county resident and a U.S. citizen to vote in the county. You can register to vote when you are 16, but you must be 18 by the next general or special election in order to vote. You are not under guardianship for a mental disability, or, if you are, you have not been found by a court to be unable to communicate a desire to vote. You can be in jail or prison and still vote, as long as you are not serving time for a felony. To vote, you must first complete a voter registration application. You can complete a paper application or an online form. You can pick up a paper application from many Montgomery County locations, a few of which are shown here. You can also download the paper application from the Maryland Board of Elections website. At the homepage, click Voter Registration in the blue bar, and then Voter Registration Application. Scroll to the bottom of the page to find the PDF application forms in English, Spanish, French, Chinese, and Korean. The paper form looks like this. Question 1 is about eligibility to register to vote. Question 2 is where you mark that you are registering for the first time. You only need to register once. However, if you move, change your name, or want to change your political party affiliation, you will need to update your registration using this same form. To register, you will need a Maryland driver's license number or an MVA ID card number in question 6A. Or you will need to provide the last 4 digits of your Social Security number in question 6B. If you don't have one of these, check box 6C and follow the instructions on the back of the form. We will cover party affiliation question 9 in the presentation. To complete the application online, text the word VOTE to 77788. You will receive a link to the Maryland State Board of Elections voter registration page. Or you can go to the Maryland Board of Elections website and look for the box on the right-hand side of the screen with a check mark and the words Register to Vote. You will be asked questions to determine your eligibility to vote in Maryland, after which you will complete the application. If you apply online, your Maryland driver's license, or Maryland ID, is your official signature for your voting registration application. Officially, you must register to vote 21 days before the next primary or general election. However, if you miss the deadline, you can still vote. During early voting, go to any early voting location to register and vote on the same day. On Election Day, go to your assigned polling location to register and vote. If you are not in your correct precinct, you will still be able to vote a provisional ballot. But your votes will be counted only for the offices that are the same as those in your home precinct. You will need to bring identification, such as a Maryland driver's license or MVA-issued ID card to prove where you live. If you don't have either of those, you can bring a paycheck, bank statement, utility bill, or other government document to prove residency. You will receive a voter registration card in the mail a few weeks after you submit the application. It will have your polling place, party affiliation, and voting district information. This card is for informational purposes only. You do not have to bring it with you when you vote. Here are the political parties running candidates in Maryland. You can also register as unaffiliated, which means you are registering without declaring a party. In Maryland, the Democratic and Republican parties are required to use primaries to select their candidates for the general election. Primaries occur several months before the general election. Maryland is a state with closed primary elections. This means that only voters registered with a party may vote in that party's primary. Only registered Democrats vote in the Democratic primary, and only registered Republicans vote in the Republican primary. Voters registered as Libertarian, no labels, and unaffiliated can vote only for offices that are nonpartisan, such as the school board. They cannot vote in the Democratic or Republican primaries in Maryland. If you want to change your party affiliation, you must do so before voter registration closes 21 days prior to an election. Although you can register to vote during early voting and on Election Day, you cannot change your party affiliation then if you are already registered. You can vote by mail using a mail-in ballot, also known as an absentee ballot. To vote by mail, you must request a mail-in ballot from the Maryland State Board of Elections. An absentee ballot will not automatically be mailed to you. To request a mail-in ballot, go to the Maryland State Board of Elections website and click on Mail-in Voting under the quick links on the left-hand side. Or you can text VBM to 77788, and the link to request a mail-in ballot will be texted to you. If you plan to vote by mail, request your mail-in ballot now. Once your ballot arrives, complete it as soon as possible and return it. There are 2 ways to do this. You can deliver it in person to several drop-off locations around the county. These locations will have a clearly marked drop box for you to securely drop off your ballot. A list of these will come with the directions for completing your ballot. You can also mail it back in the prepaid envelope provided. The second way to vote is early voting in person. There are many early voting sites throughout the county for both the primary and general elections. For a complete list, visit the Montgomery County Board of Elections homepage. Click on Voting and select Early Voting in the drop-down menu to see the early voting sites. The third way to vote is at your polling place on the primary or general election day. Your polling place is listed on your voter registration card and on the cover of your sample ballot, just above your address. You can also find it by going to the Maryland State Board of Elections homepage and clicking on the box marked Look Up Your Voter Information. Although some buildings may be used as an early voting center and also as a precinct polling place on Election Day, you cannot vote there on Election Day unless that is your assigned precinct. If you choose to vote anywhere other than your assigned precinct, you must vote a provisional ballot, and you may lose your chance to vote in some contests that would be on the ballot in your home precinct. Be prepared to wait in line if you choose to vote in person on Election Day. This is a typical polling place. If you vote in person on Election Day, you'll most likely be voting in a community recreation center or a school. Inside the polling place, check in at the first table you see. You'll be greeted and welcomed. The volunteer poll worker will ask for your name and address and the month and day of your birth. Maryland does not require IDs of voters to check in, but relies on your information matching what is recorded in the poll books. You will have a choice to use a touchscreen to mark your ballot or a paper ballot and pen. The paper ballot and pen are almost always faster, but the touchscreen will prevent you from casting too many votes in a contest where you can choose several candidates. Whether you use the touchscreen or the paper ballot, you fill in the ovals for your choices. On the paper ballot, do not make any stray marks. You can bring a sample ballot or voter's guide with you into the polling place to help you remember how you plan to vote. But you cannot use your phone. Phones aren't allowed in the voting area. If you make a mistake, don't worry. Just raise your hand, and an election judge will come to help. You can undervote, vote for fewer candidates than requested, but you cannot overvote. The scanning machine will reject an overvote, and you'll have a chance to fix the mistake. When you have completed your ballot, you will take it to the scanner. An election judge will explain how to scan your ballot. The check-in phase is connected throughout the system to make sure you only vote once. But the scanned ballots are not connected to the system. Your vote does not go online. Before both the primary and general elections, the Montgomery County Board of Elections will mail you a sample ballot, unless you have requested a mail-in ballot. It contains information on where and when to vote and a sample of the actual ballot. The MC League of Women Voters prepares a voter's guide for the primary and general elections. The guide includes information on how and when to register, how to cast a ballot, information on candidates in the candidate's own words, unedited, and explanations of ballot questions. The paper version of the guide is available about 4 weeks before an election, and the vote411.org web version is available about 6 weeks before an election. Both are in English and Spanish. Contact the Montgomery County League office to request a paper voter's guide or to find out where you can pick one up near you. We also hold candidate forums for local elections. Forums are similar to debates. Candidates respond to questions from interviewers and the audience and discuss where they stand on important issues. You can contact the League of Women Voters of Montgomery County with questions about voting at any time by dialing 301-984-9585. We also run a voter hotline staffed by a knowledgeable League member at that same number about a month before both the primary and general elections. Your ballot may include proposed changes to either the Maryland Constitution or the Montgomery County Charter. These are called ballot questions or referendums. The voter's guide explains how these proposed changes will impact existing law. The guide also gives the pros and cons of each ballot question. Here is an example of a ballot question from the 2022 election regarding the legalization of adult use and possession of cannabis, or marijuana. The League offers programming to help people understand the ballot questions. Check our website before the election to find out when and where these sessions will be held. Your ballot may include candidates for jobs you are unfamiliar with, such as comptroller, register of wills, and state's attorney. The voter's guide explains the duties of these jobs in clear languages and allows the candidates to state their qualifications for the job in their own words, unedited. The LWV is committed to helping all eligible voters register and have information needed to vote. This is what the national vote411.org website looks like. Voting information will appear after entering your address. From this website, you can register to vote, check your registration status, find out what's on your ballot, apply for a mail-in ballot, find when and where to vote, compare candidates on the issues, and learn about candidate forums and debates. Here are the QR codes for vote411.org and the Maryland Board of Elections websites. Voting is the foundation of a democracy. The League of Women Voters wants voters to be informed so that they elect people that represent their interests. Your vote is your voice. Use it. The League really values the perspective and energy voters bring, and we encourage you to join the League. Membership is free for students. Membership information is at our website, LWVMOCOMD.org, under the Get Involved tab.